The first time my sister told me she wished I didn't exist, I was 9 years old. Her name's Madison. 2 years older, 2 times smarter, at least that's how my dad always saw it. She was the perfect daughter in his eyes, a straight-A student who never got into trouble, quiet and polite when adults were around. And me? I was the loud one, the kid who laughed too hard at my own dumb jokes, the one who scraped my knees playing soccer and came home covered in mud. Dad adored Madison. He cooked her special meals, washed her laundry, even bragged about her grades like she was some prodigy. Meanwhile, I was the family errand boy, helping with her homework because that's what family does, even though she never lifted a finger for me. I thought maybe that was just how siblings were. But Madison didn't just ignore me. She wanted to break me. It started with words. She'd call me fat, mock the way my shorts fit, laugh at me when I tripped. When I didn't cry, she just got more creative. I'd wake up and find her scrolling through my phone, searching for dirt to run to Dad with. The biggest scandal she ever found was a text from a boy in my algebra class asking about homework. But instead of being embarrassed, I felt humiliated because Dad would laugh with her about it at dinner, like it was some inside joke. I started to realize I didn't even feel safe in my own house. By middle school, her jokes escalated. Madison would hide my soccer cleats before big games, shove disgusting stuff into my lunch. Once I bit into a sandwich only to find crushed eggshells between the bread. When I told Dad, he waved me off. "You're fine. Sisters mess with each other. Get over it." But Madison didn't stop. She noticed some girls at school picking on me, calling me a dumb jock and spreading rumors. For one split second, I thought maybe she'd defend me. Maybe she'd tell Dad or Mom the truth. Instead, she joined them. I'll never forget the day she looked me dead in the eyes and told me every problem in her life was my fault. That I should just end it. And when I tried telling Dad, he didn't comfort me. He yelled, said I must have provoked her. By the time I was 15, I'd gotten used to the cruelty. But then came the night she tried to pour bleach into my shampoo bottle. She used so much the smell hit me before I even touched it. If I hadn't noticed, I could have ended up in the hospital, or worse. Dad's response? She's just playing a prank. A prank that could have blinded me. That was the first time my mom finally cracked. She turned on Dad in the kitchen, voice shaking with rage. "Do you understand what could have happened? This isn't a prank, it's attempted poisoning." I still remember Madison's face. Shocked. Like she couldn't believe Mom wasn't rushing to defend her this time. That night, Mom came into my room and sat on my bed. For the first time in years, she stroked my hair the way she used to when I was little. She whispered an apology, said she thought Madison would grow out of it. Said she never realized how dark her daughter's heart had become. I told her everything. The lunches, the bullying, the eggshells in my sandwich, the night my sister said she wished I'd die. Mom just held me as I cried. She didn't even speak. She just held me tighter. The next day, she called the principal and made sure the bullying stopped at school. That same week, she signed me up for kickboxing classes. "You need to learn how to stand up for yourself," she said. I didn't think I had it in me. I'd always been the jock, but not the fighter. Still, I threw myself into it. I had a feeling one day I'd need it. And I was right. Because months later, I walked out of the shower and caught Madison sneaking out of my room, my babysitting money clutched in her hand. She just laughed when I confronted her. "Go cry to Mommy." But this time, I didn't cry. Something inside me snapped. All the sadness I'd swallowed for years boiled over into rage. I swung, hard, connecting my fist with her jaw. The crack echoed through the hallway. Her friends, standing behind her, gasped. Some even giggled. Phones came out. Cameras recording. And that was the night everything exploded. But it wasn't the worst of it. Not even close. The sound of my fist hitting Madison's jaw was still ringing in my ears when her friend started shrieking. Some of them laughed, others looked scared, but all of them had their phones out, recording. Madison's eyes went wide with disbelief. She'd never expected me to actually fight back. For a second, I thought I'd broken her. But then she launched herself at me, screaming like a banshee, nails clawing for my face. Training took over. I blocked, deflected, pinned her against the wall with my forearm across her shoulders. She thrashed, spitting curses, her perfectly polished image unraveling in front of her own friends. And then heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. "Dad!" He stormed into the hallway, face flushed with rage. "Let her go!" "Now!" he roared. But before I could even move, Mom appeared behind him. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't scream. She just crossed her arms and said, firm and cold, "Not this time." The silence that followed was louder than any yelling. Dad blinked at her, confused. Madison's friends exchanged nervous glances. One of them, Megan, bent down quietly and scooped up the cash Madison had dropped, my money, and slipped it into her pocket when she thought no one was watching. Our eyes met for a split second. I could have called her out right then, but Madison was still thrashing, Dad was still fuming, and I knew I had bigger problems. Mom's voice cut through the chaos. "You girls have 30 seconds to leave my house before I call each of your parents personally." Phones lowered. Giggles died. One by one, they scrambled for the stairs, still filming as they ran. By the time Mom reached 20, the hallway was empty, except for me, Madison, Dad, and the tension thick enough to choke on. I released Madison, and Dad immediately rushed to her side, hands outstretched. But instead of falling into his arms, Madison shoved him away violently. "Don't touch me!" she screamed, clutching her jaw. "She ruined everything. My life is over." Her words didn't make sense to me, but the hatred in her eyes did. She shot me a look that could have cut glass before storming into her room and slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. The house went still. My chest heaved as adrenaline drained from my body. That's when I noticed Madison's designer tote lying on the floor. I bent to grab my crumpled bills, but something else tumbled out, an expensive leather journal. The pages fell open, and what I saw made my stomach flip. My name. At the top of list after list. Plans. Methods. Strategies. Ways to break me. Pages of her handwriting detailing years of psychological warfare. And at the bottom of one page, written in a terrifying imitation of my own handwriting, was a draft of a suicide note. My hands went cold. Mom stepped into my room just as I was staring at it. She grabbed the notebook from me, scanned a few pages, and froze. Her face turned white, her hands trembling. "Oh my God," she whispered. She sat on my bed, flipping page after page, her eyes filling with tears as she read what her daughter had been plotting. When she saw the fake note, she gasped like the air had been ripped from her lungs. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, watching the last of her denial crumble. And then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then non-stop. Notifications flooding in. Madison had already made her move. She'd sent edited clips of our fight to half the school. Videos starting mid-swing, cut to make me look like the aggressor. In her caption, she claimed I was unstable, violent, that she was terrified of me. I scrolled through the comments with shaking hands. People were already taking sides. Some called me a monster. Others asked why the video started so late. A few, like my teammate Vicky, tried defending me, but they were shouted down by Madison supporters. It was spreading like wildfire. Mom was still photographing every page of the notebook, her jaw clenched with determination. Dad appeared in the doorway, demanding answers, but Mom shoved past him. "You need to see this," she snapped. "See what your perfect daughter has been doing." He reached for the notebook, but she pulled it away, clutching it like a shield. Another notification flashed on my phone, this one from Jenna, Madison's oldest friend. The text was simple: "My sister's messed up. We need to talk." For a second, I thought maybe I wasn't alone. But downstairs, I overheard Dad on his phone. His voice low, urgent. He wasn't just protecting Madison now, he was helping her. I caught a glimpse of his messages before he locked the screen. Years of behavioral reports about me. Reports I never even knew existed. It hit me like a punch to the gut. He hadn't just enabled her. He'd been building a case against me all along. The next morning at school, Madison's video was plastered across Instagram with a caption dripping in fake fear. By lunch, half my classmates were whispering about me. Coaches asked if I had anger issues. My starting position, something I'd bled for, was suddenly in jeopardy. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought circling like a vulture. If she'd already forged my handwriting for a suicide note, what else was Madison planning? And I didn't realize it yet, but that notebook was only the beginning. Because Madison wasn't done. Not by a long shot. When I was 11, I begged my dad to come to one of my soccer games. It was the championship, the biggest one of the season, and I'd been training like crazy. I still remember the way I tugged on his sleeve that morning. Please, Dad. Just this one. It would mean everything. He didn't even look up from his phone. Madison has a debate meet. That's more important than you running around a field. Be a good brother and support her. So I sat in the bleachers, pretending to cheer for her while my own team played without me. That was the day I realized, in Dad's world, Madison would always matter more. Now, years later, as I sat in the cafeteria scrolling through her fake video of me attacking her, that memory hit me like a punch. He hadn't just chosen her once. He'd been choosing her my entire life. The video was everywhere. People I didn't even know were commenting. Some called me violent. Others said I should be expelled. My coach pulled me aside after practice, her face tense. Ethan, I need to know if you can control your temper. Playoffs are coming, and I can't risk the team. It was like Madison's lies were poisoning everything I'd worked for. I tried reporting it to the school counselor, but that went nowhere. She happened to be Dad's cousin. She smiled politely, dismissed my concerns, and said, "This just sounds like normal sibling rivalry." I wanted to scream. Instead, I started watching Madison closer. Following her at a distance after school, listening from the shadows while she whispered with her little group of bullies. I caught fragments, my locker, teaching him a lesson, things that made my skin crawl. She wasn't just trying to ruin my reputation. She was planning something bigger. That night, I searched her room while she was out. My hand shook as I opened her drawers, half expecting her to burst in at any moment. Most of it was junk, makeup, school supplies, perfume. But in her jewelry box, tucked under bracelets, I found something that made my stomach drop. Mom's credit card. When Mom got home, I showed her. She checked her statements online and nearly fell over. Thousands of dollars in unauthorized charges. Designer clothes. Electronics. Makeup. Stuff Madison had been flaunting for months. And while we were still staring at the screen in disbelief, Mom's coworker Catherine called. She mentioned seeing Madison at the mall during school hours, arms loaded with shopping bags. The pieces clicked into place. Madison wasn't just tormenting me. She was stealing from Mom, too. That gave me hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, Mom would finally see her for who she really was. The next day, Jenna texted me again. Madison's closest friend. She asked to meet at a coffee shop downtown. I almost didn't go, I thought it might be a trap. But something in her message felt real. When I got there, Jenna looked terrified. She kept glancing over her shoulder, like Madison was watching. "She's threatening me," Jenna whispered. "She doesn't want me telling anyone, but you need to know. Madison's escalating. She's not going to stop with just you." Hearing that from Jenna, the girl who'd always been by her side, sent a chill through me. Later that week, my kickboxing instructor, Nate, noticed the bruises on my arms. He asked, gently, how I'd gotten them. I brushed him off, said they were from sparring, but his eyes said he didn't believe me. For the first time, I realized someone outside my family could see it. Someone knew something was wrong. But Madison wasn't slowing down. If anything, she was doubling down. One evening, she stormed into the living room, crocodile tears rolling down her cheeks. She told Mom I'd been stealing money from her for months. She made it sound so convincing I almost believed it myself. But this time, Mom didn't buy it. She'd seen the credit card statements. She'd read the notebook. Madison froze when Mom didn't take her side. The shock on her face was almost satisfying. Almost. Because I knew Madison well enough to understand, when her trick stopped working, she didn't give up. She got dangerous. And I had no idea just how far she was about to go. The night everything boiled over started like any other, silent tension at the dinner table, Dad fussing over Madison while Mom and I exchanged exhausted glances. Madison barely spoke, just smirked at me across the table like she knew something I didn't. Halfway through the meal, Mom's phone buzzed. It was her sister, Aunt Laura. She'd seen Madison's edited fight video making the rounds on social media. But instead of sympathy for Madison, her text was blunt, "I've seen enough. I'm coming over." By the time Aunt Laura walked through the door, you could cut the air with a knife. She took one look at the way Dad was defending Madison, acting like nothing was wrong, and she exploded. "Stop it, Chris," she snapped, slamming her purse down on the counter. "Do you even hear yourself? You've been enabling this girl for years. She's destroying your son while you stand there pretending she's perfect." Dad went red. "That's my daughter you're talking about." "No," Aunt Laura shot back, "that's a bully. And if you keep defending her, you're just as guilty as she is." The words hit me like a thunderclap. For the first time in my life, someone in our family said it out loud. Madison slammed her fork down and stood up. "You don't know anything about me," she shrieked. But Aunt Laura didn't back down. "I know enough. I've watched you tear Ethan down at every family gathering while your dad looked the other way. I kept quiet then. I won't anymore." Mom joined in, her voice shaking but firm. "This ends tonight." Madison's eyes darted between them, panic flickering for the first time. She turned to Dad, her ace in the hole. "Daddy, tell them. Tell them it's not true." For a moment, I saw him waver. That familiar softness in his eyes when he looked at her. But then Aunt Laura pulled out her phone. She'd printed some of the screenshots from Madison's threats, plus photos Mom had sent her of the stolen credit card charges. She spread them across the table like evidence in a courtroom. "This," she said, her voice hard as steel, "is not sibling rivalry. This is calculated abuse." Dad's face crumpled. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Madison's mask shattered. She lunged across the table, grabbing at the papers, screaming about how everyone was against her, how we were all jealous of her. Spit flew from her mouth as she raged. "Shut up. All of you shut up. I'll ruin you. Every single one of you." Her threats tumbled out like venom, secrets she'd collected, dirt she'd planned to use against us, blackmail she'd been holding over her so-called friends. The more she shouted, the more everyone realized just how much darkness she'd been hiding. It was like watching a storm rip through the room. And then Grandpa's voice boomed from the doorway. He and Grandma had just arrived. Mom had called them earlier, desperate for backup. "That's enough." The entire room froze. Grandpa was usually soft-spoken, the kind of man who rarely raised his voice. But in that moment, his tone carried more weight than 1,000 arguments. He stepped forward, picking up Madison's leather journal that Mom had laid out. He flipped it open, scanned a few pages, and read aloud. "Ways to make Ethan break. Draft suicide letter." The room went dead silent. Grandma's hand flew to her mouth. Aunt Laura shook her head in disgust. Even Dad looked like the ground had just dropped beneath him. Madison shrieked and tried to snatch the notebook back, but Grandpa pulled it away. "You won't manipulate this family anymore," he said, his voice steady. "Not until you get help." Madison's face twisted in fury. "You can't do this to me. I'll tell everyone what you're all really like. I'll—" But nobody was listening. For the first time, the spotlight wasn't on her. It was on me, on what she'd done to me. And the more she screamed, the more obvious it became, the mask she'd worn for years was gone. She wasn't the perfect daughter. She wasn't the victim. She was dangerous. When she realized no one was rushing to defend her, not even Dad, she grabbed her keys, shoved past everyone, and stormed out of the house. Tires screeched down the street as she peeled out of the driveway. The silence she left behind was almost worse than her screaming. Dad sat down heavily, his face pale, his hands shaking. For once, he didn't have an excuse. He didn't even look at me. He just whispered, "What have I done?" I thought that might be the turning point. That maybe things would finally change. But I was wrong. Because Madison wasn't done with me. Not yet. Madison didn't come home that night. Or the night after. But her presence was everywhere. My phone lit up with threatening texts, screenshots of edited videos, half-truths she spread like wildfire. She created burner accounts to smear me online, threatening to expose our family. Every word dripped with rage. Dad tried to pretend it would blow over. "She's just upset. She'll calm down." But Madison didn't calm down. She escalated. 3 days later, she barged into my grandparents' house during Sunday dinner, dragging Dad behind her. Her mascara was streaked down her cheeks, her voice trembling with fake fragility. "Ethan's lying. You're all against me. He's dangerous, he attacked me. I have proof." She whipped out her phone, waving around audio clips she'd secretly recorded of our family arguments. But before she could press play, my cousin Mark, a tech whiz, leaned forward, arms crossed. "You realize recording people without consent is illegal here, right?" he said flatly. "None of this holds up." Madison's face went pale. For once, her tricks weren't working. The family just stared at her, unimpressed. Her own support system had finally crumbled. That's when Mom dropped the bomb. She pulled out a binder, pages and pages of Madison's journal entries, screenshots, stolen credit card charges, testimonies from people Madison had blackmailed. "This is who you've been protecting," she told Dad, her voice steady. "Your perfect daughter. Read it." Dad flipped through the pages, his hands shaking. Every line in Madison's handwriting, every plan she'd made to destroy me, it was undeniable. When he got to the fake suicide note, he broke. Tears streamed down his face. "I enabled this," he whispered. "God help me, I let this happen." For the first time, Madison's mask didn't just crack, it shattered. She screamed, kicking the chair, threatening to ruin us all. She spat venom, naming secrets she'd collected, trying to terrify everyone into silence. But the more she raged, the clearer it became, she wasn't in control anymore. Grandpa stood, his voice cutting through her meltdown like a knife. "Madison, until you get serious help, you are not welcome in this family. We will not be your victims anymore." The words landed like a hammer. Madison froze. She'd lost the one thing she always thought she could count on, unconditional protection. She bolted, slamming the door behind her. The house shook with silence. And then came the hardest moment of all. Mom turned to me. "It's your choice, Ethan. Do we press charges?" The evidence was there. Assault, blackmail, theft, fraud. We could have destroyed her legally. A part of me wanted it. God, I wanted her to feel even a fraction of the pain she'd put me through. But another part of me, the part that had lived in her shadow for so long, was just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of letting her control my every move. "I don't want revenge," I whispered. "I just want her gone." So we struck a deal through the court system. Madison entered an intensive therapy program. Weekly evaluations. Zero contact with me. If she quit or violated any condition, criminal charges would go forward immediately. She signed, seething with rage, her hand trembling as she scrawled her name. For once, there was no way out. No manipulation. No daddy-o to save her. Dad started therapy, too, finally facing his enabling head-on. Mom and I grew closer than we'd ever been, rebuilding what Madison had tried so hard to destroy. And me? I found peace. For the first time, I could breathe in my own house. I could laugh without waiting for the blowback. I could exist without fear. But here's the part that still haunts me. A week after Madison left for treatment, Mom found a letter hidden in her room. Dated 2 months earlier. An apology, half-baked, uneven, but real enough to sting. She admitted she hated me for being the sibling she could never be. That she knew she'd crossed lines she could never uncross. Mom asked if I wanted to read it. I told her no. Because deep down, I knew the truth. Madison didn't write that letter for me. She wrote it for herself. And whether she ever changed or not, I'd never let her hold power over me again.